Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com. That's right. Get to parishbuilt.com. Um, right now, just a landing page. Full website is still being developed, but you can go to parishbuilt.com. Excited about it. We're coming. Thanks for being there with us, y'all, as always. Please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. I did an interview this morning on Crane and Company with the boys over at the Crane and Company YouTube channel. Highly recommend you check it out if you didn't catch us live. Of course, most of our comments were about Brian Kelly's NIL comments, which have sent the world a Twitter. I believe a lot of you might have, or maybe some of you brought this up yesterday on the show. At which point I didn't even know it created sort of the hornet's nest that it did, but ended up getting a lot of run. For those that missed it, Brian Kelly did about a 25-minute sit down with Jacques Doucet of WAFB. Incidentally, Brian Kelly also did a roughly 30-minute sit down with Michael Cobble of WBRZ, and I'm told from Cobble that probably is going to be published today. So you'll have another interview with BK as well coming out. I think today from WBRZ. Anyway, as they were going position by position, they got to the defensive line. Jacques asked about defensive tackle in the portal. BK says obviously it's not gone the way we had hoped. And then they get into the conversation about NIL. And what seems to have been isolated is a 3-second soundbite amid a 3.5-minute conversation about NIL. And it's where Brian Kelly says, we're not in the business of buying players. And people are like, well, why not? Well, context matters. And that's what a lot of people have chosen not to pay attention to. And that's what I've told you here. Dominic Williams, the Oklahoma transfer, asked for $1.2 million. Now, Brian Kelly didn't say that. I'm telling you that. And so whenever Brian Kelly says, if you just want to retire, that's what he's alluding to. When he says, how do I look at, I'm responsible to everyone in the room, meaning the team room, the whole roster. How do I look at my offensive lineman, meaning Will Campbell, Emory Jones, who Dominic Williams would be making? I'll tell you, Will Campbell has the largest NIL deal on LSU's roster, as well he should. And Dominic Williams' ask was more than double the amount that Will Campbell makes. So how do you look at Will Campbell and say, hey, I know you've been my starting left tackle for 2 years and you're projected top 5 pick. Thanks for that. But we're going to pay this guy double what you get. I mean, come on. So I get where Brian Kelly's coming from with it. But in the context of the 3.5-minute answer that he gave, it was, if you want to come and develop as a person, as a player, if you want to get your degree and play in Tiger Stadium and compete for championships and play in front of the best fans and have amazing NIL opportunities. And Brian Kelly went on to compliment the collective and the opportunities they've given. Yes, there will be NIL opportunities for student athletes in the Baton Rouge community and through the collective. Then come to LSU. So I think his words were, then you should be a Tiger. But if you just want to get paid, this isn't the place for you. And I don't blame him, because look, if I said it this way on radio, I'll say it again here. If the player we were talking about was, say, Caleb Williams, let's say Caleb Williams was a 2-year starter at quarterback at Oklahoma, and he's in the portal the way he was a couple of years ago when he went to USC, absolutely. Pay him $1 million, because that's ultimately a guy that went on to win a Heisman Trophy, the number 1 pick in the draft. Yes, that's a guy that, because of that guy, you can win a championship. I don't know that I look at LSU's roster and say they're a defensive tackle away from winning the college football playoff. I don't believe that. If I did, and that was Ndamukong Suh, and that's what it was going to take, okay, you can convince me. But a guy that was a 2-year starter at TCU is a really good player. But, like, is it worth the conversation and the potential locker room culture eroding to do that? Of course, no, it's not. And the best example of that is Texas A&M from 3 years ago. They went and bought the best recruiting class ever. And look what it did to the culture of that program. It eroded in a year. Half that class was gone. The roster was decimated. Jimbo gets fired. You pay him $75 million to go away. I mean, y'all, like, at some point, you got to just be very real about this and acknowledge what Like, how it's not just pay him, pay him, pay him. It's how you manage your NIL budget and your roster matters. It's another thing for coaches to consider. But yeah, it's something they got to consider. So, in any event, all right. Smash the like button there on YouTube. If you're new, subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. Y'all fire away questions, comments. You know the drill. Jason, good morning. Abner, Neal, hope your back feels better. Thank you, Abner. Still not great, to be honest with you. But incrementally better today. But thank you. Brant, morning, two-part question. Yesterday, I saw article after article talking about how Brian Kelly didn't have the right response when he said we don't buy players, and now that isn't going to help the program. Also, he dropped the ball the past 2 seasons on getting quality players on defense. What's the question, Brant? Sorry. I don't know what the question is. Tim, good morning. Tell Jake and the boys they need to let you guests appear more. It really classes up the joint. You know what, Tim? I didn't even realize, and I don't know how it looked for y'all, but I don't have a ring light here because what I'm looking at is the corner of my office. Like I'm sitting against the wall so that the visually, like what you all see is all that, which I think is cool. I need to get a desk mount too. I don't like this hanging in the picture. But anyway, I avoid a desk mount because desk mounts, anytime you hit the desk or the table, it makes a noise, bumps the mic anyway. But I need to do that anyway. I didn't. So I don't have a ring light. And on Morning Scone, I'm not saying it's super bright, but you could see on Crane and Company, all you could see because of my beard, all you could see was like this part of my face, like was my skin. You couldn't see anything. Like it was just shadows. I was like, oh my God, I got to get a ring light next time I go on there. Bill, good morning. Jeff, what up, my dude? Adam, good morning. Hey, Brian, good morning from Cassville, Missouri. Wonder who Hunt will be rooting for Saturday. I know where you're going with that. Paul Skeens, yes. Congrats to Paul Skeens, who got his call up to the Pirates. He will make his debut Saturday in a start against the Chicago Cubs. So, yes, that's what Brian's referring to there. Hey, Southern Extreme Podcast, good morning. Jason, morning. Heard you missed out on a good time fishing trip last night? What fishing trip did I miss out on last night? Tiger Diver, good morning. Heading to Vegas today. Any way to get your baseball picks earlier tomorrow? Tiger Diver, shoot me a text on the show text line. Thank you for following along. I'm so surprised that someone is actually actively seeking my baseball picks, but I have kind of crushed it this year. So for Mincy, Muso, and I give our 3 best college baseball plays, and I've actually done really well. Kelly Gross, good morning. Robert Miller, good morning. Bubba Smith, hey, Deborah, good morning. Hope you had a great birthday yesterday. Brett Gidry, thought I had a good mustache, but I think Ulloa got me beat. Yours there, Brett, your mustache is thicker. Ulloa has the Raleigh Fingers handlebar, which it's just that the commitment to the style is the difference. I don't love a mustache either way. I think that feels very 1980s. And I don't know, maybe it's just like everything comes back in style. There's a young guy that works at our office that started wearing a mustache. I thought it was a joke, but apparently he's serious. You wear yours as well? Yeah, I say to each their own. Patrick Berglass, what's going on? Brad David, good morning. Heard you last night on Chuck Oliver's show. Yeah, so Chuck is Heath Klein was filling in for Chuck. And Chuck's show actually airs earlier in the day. We air it on delay after AFR. I think Chuck is on 10 to noon Central. It used to be 11 to 1. Now it's 10 to noon Central. But we air it tape delayed. So I was on in the morning-ish, but I love going on with those guys. Chuck's great. Heath fills in for him when he's not there. Heath does a great job. Heath's a Florida guy that worked in South Carolina for a long time. Now is in Atlanta with Chuck. But got to see Heath up at Barrett Sports Media in New York a few months ago. Great dude. Eli, who's the fastest player you've ever seen in person? Brendan Holiday. Just off the top of my head. Brian Greer, what up? Jesse Brown, morning, Matt. Saints waived Mond. Is this paving the way for Rattler? Yeah, so when they signed Kellen Mond, that was really a camp arm. So remember, you've got Carr, you've got your veteran backup in Nathan Peterman, and then they had Jake Haener. Well, you're not going to camp with 3 quarterbacks. So they signed Kellen Mond sort of as a camp arm. Well, now you've waived Kellen Mond because you drafted Rattler, so you've got your 4. And the real question in my opinion, is okay, does Rattler, I guess, or Hayner, um, uh, play well enough to win the backup job? Because here's the really challenging part. Very few, if any, teams are going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the active roster because every roster spot is sacred. Um, and if you cut Rattler and sign the practice squad, if another team signs him to their active roster, then you lose the player. That's what happened with Ian Book. You cut him, you were going to try to stash him on the practice squad. Well, the Eagles signed him to their 53. So your hope is, honestly, that Rattler goes and crushes it, beats out Nathan Peterman. You cut Peterman, Rattler's your number. Miller, what up, my dude? Mind blowing how the national guys are blowing this up. Steven, look, man, it's I think that's how I led AFR yesterday. It's my biggest pet peeve in my industry in 2024. It's you have this sort of race to feed on the chum in the water, and everybody, it's so many people who just regurgitate the same talking points, and so much of it is uninformed and without context. Like if all you did was take a 3-second part of a 3.5 minute conversation that Brian Kelly had, you're doing him and your audience a disservice, because the way that those conversations were phrased were LSU doesn't have money, or LSU's not participating in NIL. That's dramatically different than Dabo Sweeney saying we don't believe in NIL. And you could see it. Like Clemson has 0 players signed out of the transfer portal right now. 0. Like, and it's not surprising Clemson is eroding. They're refusing to evolve as the game is evolving. That's not what LSU is doing. What Brian Kelly was saying made a ton of sense. Like, understanding the context around the Dominic Williams thing, I get why they didn't sign. I am telling you with 100% certainty, LSU could have, like, financially paid Dominic Williams $1.2 million. They have them. The collective has the money. But how do you justify that when you'd be paying him more than double what Will Campbell's getting? Like, how do you go sit in your locker room? There is not a single, I'll actually tell you this. The way I've been saying it is there's not a single current starting defensive lineman at LSU that's making over 100K. Of the 3 starters, Savion Jones, Jacobian Guillory, Braden Swinson, the highest dollar amount that any of them is getting from the collective is $60,000. And you're gonna pay Dominic Williams 20 times that number? Like, how do you justify that? You can't. So that's what he was saying without giving you the context and the numbers and all. But anyway, Brian Jones, Matt's getting on. Yeah, talked about that as we started. Timothy Fontenot, Seth Rushing, Matt, you said LSU already has money tied up in the 2025 class. Those guys are already getting money, or will they get it once they get to campus? Yeah, remember, they can't be recruiting inducements. So you can't, the way that LSU has structured, the collective has structured their NIL payments, it's not one-time payments. It's monthly or quarterly installments of how they disseminate the funds. The really interesting thing, though, is what happens if guys transfer before they've gotten the full allocation, or if they leave before they've executed their deliverable. Remember, you don't just get a check. You have to do something. There's a deliverable. Either you're used in promotional materials. Remember a couple of years ago, the entire team went to the food bank for an appearance, and that was their deliverable. Well, I mean, I can tell you there's one guy who was a pretty prominent recruit who hit the transfer portal without executing his deliverable. Like, LSU could go after him and say, we want to recoup that money because you never executed your deliverable. But then if you do that and that becomes a public mess, it's like, oh, well, LSU's trying to recoup funds from a player. That becomes a PR kind of nightmare, right? So it's complicated with all that. But to answer your question the short way is no, you don't get money until you're on campus. Matt, good morning. Steven, sadly, so many just want that payday up front, don't care about all the other things. I think, Steven, honestly, I think it feels like it's so many that just want the payday because those are the sort of high profile stories we hear about. But honestly, those are the outliers, man. Those are the exception, not the rule. Because most guys aren't going to be. There's a guy on LSU's team this year from 23, who's back now for 24, by the way, who had an absurd ask and said he was going to go in the portal because LSU wasn't going to, the collective wasn't going to pay him what he wanted. So he goes in the portal and he had one team reach out. Let me rephrase. He actually didn't go in the portal. He had representatives inquire on his behalf, which is very common. Had one team that was interested and wasn't even close to the dollar amount that he was hoping he'd get. And so he's now back at LSU. So I guess my point is there really is a market that has kind of been set. And the guys that are just looking for the money, I really do believe, and maybe time will prove me wrong, Steven, but I really do believe those are the outliers, man. It's the exception, not the rule. James McKinney, what's up? Aaron Hornsby, what up, Kelly? Good morning. Good to see you there. Brian Wynn, man, I've known Kelly since high school when I go work out at Callaway's. Brian, good morning. Heck of a long day yesterday at the SC softball tournament, 2 14-inning games. Aaron, I'm moving quickly. All my apologies. We got a little late start because I was on the Crane and Company show, so we got a little late start, but I'm moving quickly. Brent, as a former sports writer, discussing to see how the national media treats Brian Kelly. I think it's a bad rap. He spurned Notre Dame for LSU. You know what I have learned, Brent? I don't think it's that he spurned Notre Dame for LSU. I think his reputation was built while he was at Notre Dame. And that's something that surprised me. I was having this conversation yesterday with who was it? It was someone who's in another market. It was another media friend in another market. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Swain. It might have been Jason Swain. I forget. Anyway, but what has surprised me is sort of the reputation that Brian Kelly has nationally. And I guess it's because, like, when he was at Notre Dame, I guess he was just never really in my consciousness or awareness. We tend to be SEC centric down here. Shocker, right? And LSU played them twice in bowl games, but even still, it was never really like a Brian Kelly thing. And I mean, my only awareness or perception of Brian Kelly was, oh, he's the red-faced guy that yells a lot, you know. But yeah, man, there are a lot of people who apparently he's rubbed wrong over the years, and he is a convenient target for them, which is interesting to me because all I can tell you is my own perspective of covering this team and kind of getting to know Brian Kelly professionally, and he's been great to deal with. Like I can only speak from my experience. He's been great to deal with. That was not the case with Les or Ed. Now I like Les personally, but Les was not good to us in the media. Oh man, I don't know what I just did. Oh wow, look at that. That's interesting. Anyway, um, I used my touchpad and it just like made my screen way bigger. I didn't know you could do that on this. Anyway, um, anyway, okay, I got to get rolling here. Let's see. See if I can get a couple more. Tiger Diver heading to Vegas. Okay, read that one. Oh, I'm way sorry. That was way early. Man, I'm sorry if I missed y'all. My apologies. Um, boy, I missed a bunch of y'all. Sorry. Dale, Chuck, Alan, good morning. Brian Jones, is there a way to host a regional? So, Brian, the only way I think to host a regional, if you win out, okay? Um, if you win out, that gets you to 15-15 in the league, and then you go win the SEC tournament. You just win out the rest of the way. You go 15-15 in the league and you win the SEC tournament. I think there's a shot you could sneak in like as the 15 or 16. I do not believe that is realistic at all. But that's really your only shot. Hey, Dad. Good morning. Um, Brian, Brett, it's 8 o'clock, y'all. I got to get going. My goodness, I'm sorry. I got to say hi to Trivia because he's going to accuse me of not reading his comments if I don't. Oh, actually, heard you invited on the boat fishing trip. I don't know that I was invited. But I guess I can sort of spill the beans. Like I don't want to, but yes, our friends over at Sunshine are doing a they're starting to film their next round of NIL videos, and one of them did involve the boat fishing trip. Yes, I was wondering what you were talking about. Okay. My apologies if I missed y'all. As always, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. As always, shout out to Brock. You need an orthopedist, brortho.com, brortho.com. I'll be at Brock Saturday from 10 to noon, y'all, for the game day prep event. Saturday, 10 to noon. Saturday, 10 to noon. I'll be at Brock on Bluebonnet. And of course, Parish Construction and Roofing. Go to parishbuilt.com. Parishbuilt.com. Y'all have a great day. Peace.